Welcome to our AppNeta webinar on transforming your network to meet business demands. And let's dive into it. So why do you need performance management? This is a collection of things that we found on previous assessments that we've done with customers. These are actual comments, translated and cleaned up comments from some of our customers. Gaining visibility into the baseline of how the network is performing is key because deviations are what tell you things are going well or not. Providing a positive user experience, things are going fast, people are happy. That's one of the values of AppNeta performance. um, Issue detection, we found weird protocol issues that go unnoticed and you just notice your network is not performing. AppNeta lets you get directly to them. That was a really good experience. This customer gained huge insight and huge performance gain by just correcting a few mistakes that we found. And we're going to show you in the tool some of those values. We made some mistakes on our network that we can just go and dig in, and I'm going to show you real value. And a little bit more complex description of one of our customers. They said that the multidimensional approach, and actually we're going to touch on that, the network performance that AppNeta provides. You just not look at the network as an engineer or as a user or as an owner. It's a cohesive look from different points of view that we're gonna research. And this person saw it. They saw it in action. We deployed. Um, and it led into gain performance in the network and actually cost savings as well. So what is AppNeta? AppNeta is a SaaS-based solution. There is an on-prem, but it's basically a SaaS-based solution that monitors your application using different methodologies. Um, it provides, like I said, multiple ways of looking at the network, and it provides, because we traverse the network in different ways and we look at it from 3 different points of view, we can see the parts of the network that we don't control because our data is flowing through them. The 3 ways that I was saying that we had to look at the network are the delivery, monitoring, experience, and usage. And we're going to insist on that because that's key to understand how AppNeta gets such a good view, an in-depth view of your network. Those are the 3 methodologies, and we're going to expand on them. So delivery, and actually that's a view of the tool, and we're gonna browse it that way, and you're very likely gonna utilize it this way. So we are looking at the delivery monitoring. Is the easiest one. That's traversing your network with packets. There's a specific methodology. It's a lightweight continuum path analysis. It's little packets that traverse your network that have key information that we send from different ways. But basically, you're traversing your network with these little packets, seeing where things are going, in what path they're following, and that's the first insight. You just send little packets, you look at how the network is performing, you move on into the next view. That is the experience monitor. Now you're going to be looking at an app. You're just going to do web monitoring, be a synthetic transaction, so just reaching your app. You're going to see how it's performing, so how well it's responding. You're looking at the end. So you look how you traverse the network. Now we're looking at the app itself. So this is going to give us detailed information in all the setup of the communication to your app, the way that the app is responding back through your network, of course, and that's why it's important. You know how you traverse, now you know how the end is responding. And to complete the view is the usage monitoring. That's your customer view. This is looking at the app and actually seeing the how the bandwidth is being utilized. You can do different locations to simulate different experiences. And this is what completes the view. So we traverse the network with little packets. Then we look at your application responding, and now we're looking at the user experience. So we're just looking at all the different users from different locations, and you're actually getting what your users are experiencing. That's what completes the view. So like I said, to summarize it, delivery, network performance, experience, looking at the apps, usage, how the bandwidth is used, and how other users are seeing. And I think that's enough of the boring part with all the laying out the groundwork. And now let's go look at the tool.
So, Andres, we do have a question. Do you have to deploy monitoring points to get data?
Yes, you do. When you deploy the tool, it has already a monitoring point, but and you can do round trips through your network, but you get the full benefit of the tool by deploying monitoring tools. And there are different flavors of them, so we can go in depth a little later and actually see it in the tool. But with all the work you've done, you deploy monitoring points, you know how you traverse your network, what you get, and response, how your applications are performing, key values when you're trying to sell this to the business. You empower work from anywhere. You've seen that in our offer when we said we're going to talk about AppNeta. This is what it translated into. Work from anywhere, very, very most common than before these days. You monitor configurations of VPN, you traverse them, you understand how your solution is behaving. You can provide quality of service to really prioritize what gives you more business value, and you monitor your endpoints because you're like just traversing and seeing how they're connected to the network. Streamline concentration of users, also key. We have the scalability in the networks and SD-WANs these days. It's really difficult to track. With AppNeta, you can see what is performing, how user satisfaction. Of course, we say we're going to be watching the network the way that your users are seeing it. One acceleration as well. We're going to look at different protocols, how they behave, how the network is performing at its core. And the leverage the SD-WAN for distributed size. Like I said, now companies are not in one headquarter, localized and centralized. Most companies have deployed in multiple locations. We can help you reduce costs with AppNeta. You can see what providers give you what performance at what cost. Easy to see, easy to analyze. AppNeta is continually collecting information, so you have detailed information stored for up to a year. You can go back and see how you've been performing when you change providers, when you expanded the bandwidth in a region, to see if you're getting the return of investment on any improvement that you made in your network. And it has zero touch provision. You can simply deploy those points at any point you want in the network with very little maintenance needs.
So we can start with looking at your network. Here is a network we have set up for this particular webinar. We've got 5 locations, and as you can see, none of them are experiencing any issues right now because their color is not different from the normal. Here you can see we have 2 monitoring points deployed at this particular spot, so you'll get a number that tells where you have 2 different sites deployed. We have our Melillo site in New York, and we have at our Somerset County, New Jersey. So we've got 2 different targets and sources. Here we've got my station, where I'm from. We've got our one of our associates out in Arizona. So this gives you an idea right away if you've got any problems at any of your monitoring points that you need to take a look at. Another dashboard that's very, very handy, of course, is the application quality dashboard. Tells you immediately if you are running, let's say that your goal is to be 95% or better, you would know right away that you're not there, that you've got some violations going on, and they're represented by this graph that shows that you are seeing some violations occur, and it gives you the percentage and what day. So for July 10th, we had 9.1% violated performance. We had 2.6% outages, and we had it was okay 88% of the time. Overall, for all these days, you're getting 92.7. So this is a really good dashboard and lets you kind of give it an idea what you need to start looking at. And you can change that right here. You can change the settings for this dashboard. You can create multiple dashboards, your own dashboards, from all the available dashboards that are in the product. So here we can get web performance. These are 3 web performance groups that we have in our lab. I'm monitoring our Azure to Melillo site, our Melillo website, our Office 365 site, our Melillo support sites. And as you can see here, we're getting good data. It shows us what monitoring point is providing that data and what its workflow completion time is. Now, workflow is something you can set up. It can be as simple as opening a web page and that's it, or you can actually simulate being a user, opening the web page, logging into the app, and we can see how that workflow completion time works with different monitoring points from different points of the network, or from the global monitoring points that AppNeta provides. And you can look at it in any one of these time frames that you choose. So you can go in and look at the last hour, look at the last 4 hours, look at the last 8 hours.
Good point, Lance, in that it can be just a simple connectivity to the site or as full synthetic transaction. Most of the probes, with one exception, can do any kind of the monitoring. So you're talking about a specific experience monitoring and what Lance was describing.
But let's kind of look at the 3 tabs. Now, Andres mentioned delivery. So right away in delivery, you're going to have what we call network paths. And here you can see that we are looking at a global monitoring point that we've deployed. It's the East US, so it's in the eastern seaboard. And as you can see, if I click that button, I don't have to see the routes, but if I want to see the routes, I can actually see them. So from this global monitoring point, you can see all the different ways that the traffic goes through the internet to find our sites. We're watching files.com, Melillo.com, and the autotask.net site. And you can see that we have monitored how much our total capacity is, any data loss that we're getting, good, we're getting none, and the round trip time. Now, this round trip time, 65 milliseconds, if we wanted to look into that, we could click on this delivery path and see when this data was acquired. And then we can go in, this is the last time it was diagnosed, so we can look at that diagnosis. And look, we are getting something right here at the 7th hop. We've got a data loss, which is greater than our policy of 2%. We will tolerate a 2% data loss, and then we will indicate that we've got a diagnostic that needs to be run. So the tool did this automatically, by the way. We did not have to take time out of our day and go set up a capture and go start monitoring and go start tracing routers and switches. It just did it for us. And not only did it do it, it's showing us the exact path that it took to get to this particular site. And we want to see the performance information for each site. Now we have it, and even the tool recommends and shows you with its certainty that you have rate limiting behavior detected at that site, that you have some packet loss, you have insufficient and if you don't know what these are, how about we just click on this and get help from the Broadcom site? You can find out what all these things mean just by the click of a button. So it's really easy to use to find out, what am I looking at? What do you mean insufficient statistics? What do you mean packet reordering detected? So we can see all that by a hop by hop basis, and we know that we probably should get a hold of this site if we have any control over it. And you can see where it is. It's msn.net.
And actually, after we look at what the error is, we understand now, oh, well, this is what AppNeta is telling me. We can actually go see the data so we can do the analysis. You have a network engineer. You don't rely on him looking at the whole data in many different tools. In one tool, we have the diagnosis, but then we can drill down as if it was many tools into one to see all the collected info, because remember, we do traversing the network, we do the analysis of the app, and we look at the usage from the user standpoint. So everything in one place.
And that's, if we turn off the filter, just what Andres was talking about. Here's all of our paths right there. And look at this. All you got to do is scan down your icons and see what's going on here. And we've got this one right here. It keeps refreshing automatically. Okay, and this is my particular monitoring point. You can see this is a really helpful graphic, because your events all have different type of events. Did you have a violation event? Well, no. When did it start? When did it clear? So you'll see a little circle here that shows when it started, and then another circle when it cleared. You can see if the tool ran a diagnostic test. You can see if there was a network change detected, if there was a route change detected, whether or not you ran a packet capture, if ISPs changed something, if there was a connection change, and all along here. And you can look by either network or hops. You can see all the hops between my site and files.com. I can look at only TCP packets if they're available, or only UDP packets. And there's one incomplete route right there. to files.com, gives the address of the site, or you can just go back to ICMP. You've got what your bandwidth was, and that's pretty typical for a home use connection. That's about what I pay for. This is any data loss. This is the data jitter. And you know that jitter is really bad for if you want to do voice over IP, you're going to have some issue if data jitter is getting up there. Your latency, your round trip time, you can do a voice test. You can check for voice jitter. You can do a mean opinion score. Now, anybody in the industry knows that a mean opinion score of 4.5 or better is a circuit that will handle a phone call without having any dropouts, like when people's voices disappear. You can look at the link speed, the RSSI, the airtime, retransmit, stations, all that. It's all available in an instant, easy to use tool. And I have all the events right here if I want to look at them. That's just from one monitoring point. And you can imagine, like Andres says, these are deployed all over your network. So you can look and see, which monitoring point it was, what target it was, what is the description? Was it a wide area network or a local area network? What type of codec are you using for voice over IP? It can all be determined by the tool. I didn't put any of this in. The tool came up with all this. Okay, and you can deploy these on every workstation you would like. It's called a network monitoring point, or you can deploy it in your data center like we have with the monitoring points that we have deployed. We have 4 of them in our lab. We have mine and our colleague Corey, and then we have, of course, our main M50. Now, Andres was talking about M50, the different monitoring points. They have different capacities, different sizes. There's the V35, which is basically a VM that you deploy. It's pre-configured. You just deploy it to a VM and bring it up, and that's a monitoring point. You also have hardware monitoring points like the M50. There's also the M70 and the R90. These are all larger and have more capacity and more capture ports, more interfaces. This particular one we've been using for the lab we've had up for a while, so there's quite a bit of data available for it. And that's just under the delivery network paths. You can see under our maps that we
and
have.
one good point in what you were showing, Lance, is that we own all of them except for the global monitoring point. That's owned by Broadcom. You subscribe and use it, and you can locate it wherever you want in the network and have many features. But that one you don't own, you just use.
Correct. And you can see that if we had monitoring points all over the country, we'd have instantly a look at how they're connected and whether or not that circuit right there, the M50 lab to office.com, is using the Windstream communications. The QoS is not applied. It tells us what alert profile we're using to watch it and what time ranges we're using and our thresholds to cause any kind of non-green event instantly by just clicking on the line. And yes, you scroll to zoom the map. Also, we have what's called Path Plus. Path Plus lets us do pings, trace routes, all that kind of stuff, packet captures. We can actually do data assessments on any line we want. I've done one here for you so we don't have to take time to watch it run because it might take a while. This data assessment shows, it's a summary. So this is for a good high-level use to show executives, and then you can drill down into it if you'd like. This is a WAN web server. This is your readiness and its marginal readiness on this particular analysis I was doing. I needed to find out what was going on, and it's working a lot better now. But you can see it tells us.
We have one question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Are you able to evaluate the user's experience with our website, and is this all live data?
Yes, the answer is yes. How do we do that? We go through the experience tool, and these are the web apps that we're watching. Now, the AppDeck score is an industry standard that's used to evaluate the readiness of a site. And you can see these numbers should be at least 95% or better. We're doing pretty good here. It tells you what monitoring point did it, and you're talking about live data. I can just click on that right now. We've had live data here 15 days since June 26th. We can click on this particular, and now look at this. Now we have transaction times broken down by milestone. The milestone we have on this particular website, by the way, is open. We want to see how fast Melillo.com opens. It opens quite well. Tells us how much time each part of the load time is used. So when you open a page, you typically go through DNS to get looked up. This didn't take any time because it was probably cached. This is how long it takes for you to get what we call the three-way handshake. It's, you know, where someone does a sync and then another one says sync act, and then you say, okay, it's, I would akin it to saying, hello, how are you? I'm good. Now we have a connection and we can start talking. SSL connection is to negotiate certificates and make sure it's a secure connection. And now we're waiting for a request from the file server. Oh, 136 milliseconds. That's only a tenth of a second. And we downloaded everything from that website for that open in 11.5 milliseconds. Total response time with a status code 200 from the website was 300 milliseconds, not even a third of a second. So, and then you can see the download speed that was used, the transaction status that happened with that milestone of being open. So there's the answer to your question. Yes, it's live data. And yes, it's over historical. You can see we can do now. This is it right now, live data. Or we can go back an hour. Or we can go back 4 hours. Or we can go back 7 days. You can see where were your peaks and valleys. Okay, what was going on here? Oh, look, what was going on there? Can you imagine how much time that would take? Now we've got a complete point in time where we had some kind of delay and it was in the network. It wasn't the server. We were waiting 72% of the time for the network. It seems most likely that the network was the issue there. And you can actually look at your website load and see where that delay was.
And we did not configure this specifically for this site. It's just default monitoring that it will be doing on any site that we point at.
Yes, correct. So that's how fast. I mean, we're talking, if the old way of doing this would take you a lot of time to compile information, to look it up, to put it in an easy to look at format that everybody can pretty much understand. You can compare one view to another and see how this looked 6 months ago as compared to today, and actually look and see where each one of these elements took longer or shorter. And you can create groups of these. So I have a files group, a Melillo group, a ConnectWise group, and then I can look and see the actual individual sites as well. I can also sort these and separate them by using path tags, which we can create in the settings here. We can manage users, sessions, profiles, time ranges, SNMP, community strings, update notification, who's going to get told by the tool when. We can manage save lists. So if we don't want to create something over again, we just save it and then we just have one click next time. Same with groups. Path QoS templates, which Andres mentioned, we can work with QoS. So we can actually look at these QoS templates and look and see about your different DSCP code points and how they are performing, where they're deployed, things of that nature. So QoS is totally within the tool. And again, I mentioned we can do data, voice assessment, tests of video and voice in the delivery. We also, yeah.
I think there's also a really good thing that we leverage. When the tool detects an error, it triggers a diagnosis. Do we have any that we can show, or?
Yeah, we did do one diagnosis earlier.
Excellent.
Yeah. So yeah, we did do one diagnosis earlier by when you look through the different routes that you have. If you had a problem site, you would click on that site, right? And my particular network monitoring point did not do a diagnosis,
okay.
But and we can do diagnosis either on demand. All right, by doing a data assessment, we can do a diagnostic on any of these network paths. Even if it's green, we might want to check it. We can add tags to it if we want to check it. This is to off. So if you had a diagnostic in here, there would be a diagnostic
excellent
test.
And you can trigger a diagnosis with a violation as well. So you don't have to be jumping on the tool at 3 a.m. and clicking on diagnose. It will happen.
It will do it on its own. Yes,
excellent.
It will do it on its own. If we had a diagnostic in the event here, The event type would be a network change, packet capture. This is where we did a packet capture.
There you go.
Okay. I was going to point out that you can do packet captures with the tool. We did one. We just wanted to see if it was working. We didn't run anything on it, but you can actually schedule packet captures. Since we're mentioning those, we can create a schedule of packet captures. If we know we're having a time at night when there's something weird going on, how did we find that? Well, we might have went to our summary. This brings up usage. This is actual live usage of our network right now, and you can see instantly. Now this would take a lot of time. You can see right away, here's our total traffic volume for this time period. Okay, we've had 3.2 million packets go through the system with 65,000 flows or sessions, 20 flows a second. And there were teams, they were AppNeta delivery. This is actual overhead of using the tool. So you can see it's not much. We had some SSL activity. You can click on that and you can see the traffic volume and come up with your top hosts, applications, categories, your QoS usage, top sources. You can see by time when these were all used, who was using them. I won't do too much of that there because that's live data. But that gives you, your usage summary instantly gives you stuff that it used to take you, I can tell you it took up to an hour maybe sometimes to get to the point where I had data to the point where I could tell what my top applications were and how they were performing and what network they were using. And
yeah, and sometimes at 3 a.m. And you can also configure the tool to send you notifications, so you can go jump in and start your analysis on demand without having to have somebody with eyes on glass.
Correct.
That's another really nice feature.
Very nice. So that's kind of the live product demo under the three different tabs that you were talking about. What we didn't talk about is reports. This is a quick list of all kinds of reports you can get from the system that are ready to go. Let's say I wanted to know when I had a violation breakdown report, and you can select. Since I haven't selected anything, I have to go ahead and select, which it's based on everything. So I can run that report now. Okay, here we go. Here's our data loss, violations found, and it was found with this Backblaze. I can click on that right away. I just went in and asked the system when my violations were. Here you go. Here you go.
Excellent.
Andres, there's your diagnostic. It ran. Okay. It ran that diagnostic. And you can see that you'll have all this information about that.
Like you say, you have the start and the stop of the violation and the diagnosis run. So there's a timeline that can be explained to the network users or the application users of what was going on.
Absolutely. And you can freeze it. And if you want to see it, there it is. There's your diagnostic. Diagnosis complete with degradations found. All right. Severity is given right here. It was data loss going to Backblaze. And if you want to get an instant diagnosis, you hit that button. You can look at the summary, do your hot by hot performance, and do another diagnosis right then. But yeah, we went from a report right into it, found out where it was. We saw that there's degradations, and we actually have test histories. We have all these other tests that were run. This is run quite a bit. So I would be like trying to figure out what's going on with Backblaze, right? This is a really good one. Am I getting what I pay for my bandwidth quality? So you can run and see if, it runs a report and tells you, are you getting what you're paying for? Tells you if your location is getting the bandwidth that you contracted for.
Yeah. And we can go back, see when the data goes through the provider and measure it hop by hop. And I think we got one customer, the last was that we found there was one hop within one of the provider's networks that was failing. Every time they had a change on that path, we saw a failure. And with the tool, we can say exactly, we can call the provider and say your hop, and we get the URL is delaying by, almost a second all our transactions, whereas excluding that path. And that was just, I think it was an OSPF configuration that I had to change. and the other routes
Yes.
were beautiful.
Yes, it was. It was OSPF, correct. So that's pretty much a quick live demo of the tool.
And that concludes our presentation. We can answer more questions. Thank you for the question. That's good.
Yeah, Andres, we have another question. They noticed that we are offering a free AppNeta health check. They
Oh,
want
yeah.
to know why they should do one and what they get out of it.
Yeah, we found that many customers, although the application automatically provides a lot of data by default, having one of our engineers reviewing it with you and making sure you're utilizing the tool in the right way, putting the configuring the different protocols in the different locations, and will give you a lot more value out of the tool. So that's what we provide with the health check. We're gonna go through the tool in depth and do an evaluation, let you know how well you're utilizing it and how we think you can get more profit out of where you already purchased.
If you are interested in your free AppNeta health check for joining this webinar today, please reach out to Nick. His contact information is on the screen right now. And if you have any questions regarding AppNeta or the health check, please reach out to any of the three that their contact information is also on the screen.